Good morning. Good morning.
Welcome.
How you doing today, sir?
I am good. Work has been crazy these last few weeks, and that's
Yeah.
only because we are getting a new president CEO. So
Mm,
on the HR side of things, it has just been so. Luckily, this is the last week for the busyness. The new president, they start next week. So next Thursday, I'll be able to be if it works out back at Connect Coworks and starting that. I just had to be in the office
hmm
last few weeks because it's been crazy.
Yeah,
Um,
I bet.
but I'm grateful. New CEO. They for Habitat Mid Ohio. So Habitat is, if you know, is a national. I mean, it's Habitat. So they are massive. Um, so to get a new CEO is a pretty big deal, especially in
hmm
Columbus, because Mid Ohio is the biggest affiliate of Habitat in Ohio. So, um, yeah, it's just been busy on my end, but luckily this is the last week for that with meetings and prepping and then create a new normal next week when she starts. So
Oh
yeah.
yeah, I bet there's going to be a lot of they bringing a lot of changes, implementing a lot of new things, or what?
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to hold off on doing too many new things because if
Yeah.
she comes in as a CEO president, she can overturn all that.
Right.
Um, so some things we had to change just because the existing CEO wanted to happen. Other things we're just trying to be proactive, but then other things we can't even touch yet because we need her signature on it going into the new fiscal year. So a whole bunch of
Mm.
intangibles that in some aspects promotes what I do, and in other
hmm
aspects it hinders what I do because I need signatures. Um, so, but it's exciting. I say this often. My long term goal is to get outside of the 9 to 5 space and do ministry full time, and things are progressing toward that. Either way, 2025 is my year to do ministry full time,
Yeah.
uh, and allowing God to provide the increase.
Oh yeah, that'd be
um,
nice.
because while I love HR, I've been doing it for 8.5, 9 years. I'm ready to just have a Bible in one hand, a microphone in the other every day, and talking about Jesus, helping people, encouraging them, and just doing the good work.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anytime you need to do an episode on here, just let me know. I don't mind. I'm actually going to get my hair cut at noon, so it kind of worked out.
Okay.
So
So
I can
we'll
just
have
go
a
straight from here to
yeah. So we'll
Garrett's.
have a hard stop at about 10:55 because I will be on with Steven today.
Okay,
So I'll be leaving here and heading to Connect Coworks. I just had
gotcha.
to be here for some early morning meetings. So, but anyway, I know I'm always grateful for the Morning Brew crew on Thursday. Um, and I never take it for granted. Always grateful for the crew that taps in on a Thursday. So,
Yes, sir. So appreciate everybody tuning in. Like he said, hard stop 10:55, but we do have a lot to get to. I sent him everything that I want to talk about last night. I added a few things. I woke up at 5 a.m. this morning, man, and I don't know, like just sometimes at certain times throughout the night in the morning, it's just like, oh yeah, I want to talk about that.
yes,
But
sir.
go ahead and give them a word for the day.
Absolutely. I've been on this one kind of heavy, but Philippians 4:8, and I'm going to read it in its entirety. And I'm going to just talk about the key point of it, and then we'll get into the content today. But it says, finally, brother, and this is the New King James Version, finally, brother, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are good or of good report, if there is any virtue and if there's anything praiseworthy, meditate on these things. Okay. So I read it in the King James, and now I want to read it just in one of my favorite translations. It's called the English Standard Version, ESV. It reads kind of like the NIV, but listen to what it says in the ESV. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there's any excellence, if there's anything worthy of praise, think about these things. So you say, well, Martin, how's that going to be our word for today? If it's worth your time, if it's worthy, if it's honorable, if it's good, think on it. What the Apostle Paul is saying in that scripture is that when you go through life and you go through circumstances, you go have encounters with people, whatever the situation is, it says think on these things. That means before I engage in conversation with you, is what you're saying true? Is what you're saying honorable? Is what I'm about to do just? Is it pure? Right? So before you engage and put yourself in any situation that may compromise your integrity, think on the things that may rob it if you involve yourself with certain things or people or go in certain environments. So that's why we talk about all the time, people connected with, ministries you're connected with, that you listen to. And at the end of the day, if it's robbing you of purity, of truth, of having honor, get away from it. So Philippians 4:8 is one of my favorite scriptures, is because it's finally brother. And when they say brother, they ain't just talking about men for those that tap in. The possible brother was just a general term, finally brother, and finally people that are listening, whatever is true, right? Think on these things. The King James says meditate on it. If I meditate on it, that means I'm just going to somber in it. I'm going to make myself intentional and thinking about it. So yeah, Philippians 4:8, man, that's been stirring up in me since yesterday. And so we'll tap in on that with the Morning Brew, and just, if it's worthy of it, if it's worth your time, if it's honorable, if it's with integrity, think on those things and keep
it. Steven said his translation is finally, bruh.
This dude, man. I can't wait to
so, man, dude. I just wanted to start this podcast off by saying how fortunate that we are with the uptick in podcast, with the more accessibility that there is to podcast, that people are actually able to have real conversations, and you're actually able to hear real people's perspectives on things. And you don't just, because there was a point in time where if you wanted to hear people talk about certain topics, you would have to turn on the news and hear these anchors that have an agenda or are trying to push a narrative talk about certain things. With these podcasts, you can actually tune in to real life people and hear what people really think. And it's not just a one-sided story. You know what I mean? You can tune into real people and hear real conversations, because the news has a bad reputation for making it seem like the majority thinks one way, when I think what a lot of people are realizing now with all these podcasts booming is that it's not that way at all.
Period.
You know what I mean?
At all. And you hit something on key, man. It's real conversation. It's what I love about the Morning Brew, what me and Steven do on Thursdays, and we'll tap in today around 12:30, 1 o'clock, is none of this is scripted. The only part that is known is kind of what we're going to talk about. But what comes out of that, it's raw. And I can and like you said, that's what I appreciate about doing these, because I don't have time to go through a nice soliloquy of words. I mean, if you watch my Monday Night Devo, I went off, and I went back on it and listened to it, and I said, nope, I don't make any apologies about what I said, because I can back it biblically. But like you said, I'm going to be real. I've come too far, been through too much to all of a sudden double down because I want to be sinker sensitive to your feelings. Absolutely.
Right. Nah. You said if you got a problem with it, you can call me. My number hasn't changed.
Here, it ain't changed in 10 years. So, I mean, if you got...
I had you up on the big screen. I had you up on the big screen on the surround sound. Well, like, everybody need to hear this tonight.
Yeah, man. And listen, I usually don't, because I think it kind of flows into the questions. I usually don't go off like that. But man, that's one of the most number of views I had, because
it needs to be done. And I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about with the podcast. These real conversations need to be had, because a lot of this stuff isn't getting talked about. And a lot of these conversations are necessary because they haven't been talked about for so long. But now that these podcasts, people are learning how to create their own podcasts. So you're actually hearing from real people and not news anchors with a hidden narrative that they're trying to push on people.
That's good. That's right. And again, at the end of the day, my only agenda is giving you truth according to the word. And period. And that, like you said, that's going to ruffle some feathers. That's going to go against the status quo. That's going to go against personal agendas and narratives. And at the end of the day, humbly, I don't care. And it's not that I'm trying to be this big bag. My wife said, man, she said, you was really hostile. But then she knew my heart. She knew my heart.
It's just passion.
Literally. And somebody actually commented, and I entertained it for a little bit. They said, you just sounded very angry. And I says, well, yeah, Jesus flipped over tables. So there's a such thing as a righteous anger. You better believe it. It's biblical.
Yeah.
And everything that I said was because I was tired of seeing people hurt and abused. And I know we're gonna tap into that, but enough's enough. Enough is enough, man. And I had that was my wit's end. And I don't know. Next Monday might be it. I'm preaching on the 12th at VR, and I'm on a roll right now. Because right now I already kind of got my title. Will the real church please stand up? That's probably what my title's going to be on March 12th or May 12th, and that's Mother's Day. But we're going to do it because, like you said, it's time for the truth to be a normal, the real truth to be a normal. So,
hey, the truth hurts people that are living a lie. You know, so
say that again, sir. For those that may not be.
The truth will hurt people that's living a lie.
That's word, man. Steven, you can steal that, man. I ain't gonna take it from you. That's a word. All right.
So I did want to bring that up. This was your topic for your Monday devotion, convenience versus connection. And I just thought that was a super relatable thing to everybody, because everybody has been in a predicament where somebody has only kept them in their life when it is time for them to offer something. When they're able to offer them something, that is the only time that they want them in their life. Man. You know what I mean? And I was thinking about what you were saying on there, and I was like, man, people do this with Jesus and God all the time. You know what I mean? They only look to him when they need something from him. When something's going wrong in their life, or they're struggling financially, or something that they're dealing with throughout their life, then they want to look to Jesus and they want to look to God and they want to pray and everything like that. And I mean, I'm guilty of it too. That's something I need to be better at. But when everything's all good and going great, you know what I mean? That's when they tend to get away from me.
Man,
that's that convenience part that I think you was talking about. And it's just like, man, it applies to so many things.
And like you said, and just if you want the full totality of it, go back on the Monday on my page. But to Trey's point, he said it on the head. Convenience doesn't take any effort. Actually, the definition of it is convenience is something that takes minimal effort. I don't have to be motivated, right? Yeah. I'm there because maybe somebody invited me. I'm in your life because maybe you asked me to be, not because I want to be. And like I said, I don't want anybody in my life, and you shouldn't want anybody in your life, especially on your spiritual walk, that has you in their life, or they're in your life because they're tolerating you.
Right.
Absolutely not. I don't have time for people to just be there taking up space. Either you're going to be a handout or a hand up. And handouts, I'm not about handout. Give me a hand up. So when I'm down, I don't have you being a spectator, but now you're a champion in my pickup. But connections, man, connections are few and far in between. And the nucleus between both of those is relationship.
Right.
If I do a part 2 on that, I would break down the 5 ways of, I would break it down more. But the middle part between that is relationship. You're in that relationship, is exposed by either a convenience or a connection. And what's a connection? Is where 2 or 3 people are linked together, agreeing on any one thing. A convenience, I don't have to be in agreement with you we're out of convenience. I'm there out of convenience. That means if you say something I don't like, I'm gone because the connection's not there.
Right.
And there's many people, man, that's struggling with that on the Christian side, on the spiritual side, on relationships, man, where they think that people are in their life for one reason. And then when a situation happens, their true reasons actually exposed.
Yeah.
And now they're hurt because they put a lot of energy into a relationship that the other person did.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, super relatable. You could apply that to a bunch of different situations.
Yeah.
One of the things that came to mind with that was, and I want to make it very clear that I'm not speaking ill of my father at all. But when my father was alive and he was healthy, I think we talked about this before. He didn't go to church. You know what I mean? He didn't pray that I know of. Like, he didn't ever read the Bible. He didn't ever talk about God or anything like that. It wasn't until he got cancer And then obviously he had to deal with that fear of dying, that he looked to God. I think that's only when it was convenient for him and when he needed something from him, that's when he looked to him. Throughout his whole life, when he was healthy and everything seemed to be going good, he never looked to him.
Wow.
But then I think when it got to that point where he was facing a realistic death in the near future, then he wanted to reach out and try to make that connection. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it. And I'm not saying that he was too late, because I hate thinking like that. But at the same time, I think that is what has made me want to look further into it now while I'm still in my prime, instead of waiting until it gets to a point where it's just like, now I need something from you. So I'm going to look deeper into it. You know what I mean?
There it is. Let me say this on this topic, and then we can jump off. And this just came to me. Okay. Convenience can lead to connection, but true connection will never dumb down to convenience.
Right.
Right. If you're truly connected to somebody, there's no room for convenience because my connection's too strong. But there are situations where somebody's in your life out of convenience and they can turn into a real connection. Why? Because what we read about in Philippians 4:8, you've discerned that whatever's good, whatever is true, whatever is pure, whatever is honorable, I'm going to meditate on this. And if I know that you're really trying, if I know that you're in my life to really try, maybe you don't know how to be a friend to me. Maybe you don't know how to be a mentor to me, right? It doesn't mean that you have ill intentions, but that means I got to make sure I'm in a position that I could discern the reason why you're in my life. Right. So yeah, you may be in my life out of convenience in the beginning, but if you're still spending time with each other, going, and I'm learning more about you, that convenience can turn into a connection, but that's only done when there's true relationship. And when it comes to the biblical aspect, most of the time we go to church out of convenience, but that convenience can turn into a connection with Christ if you have a relationship with him. That's the key. Most people, because relationships takes vulnerability. And that's why, man, seriously, bro, most people will never have a true relationship with God or people because they don't want to be vulnerable. Vulnerability means there's the transparency there. There's some trust there. There's some truth that's being shared. And most people, man, will never get to that level of true relationship because they'll never have true vulnerability. So that means every relationship in their life is a convenience because they dare not want a true connection.
Yeah.
Because then you got to be honest, right? We got to have honest conversations.
Yeah. And a lot of people can't do it. Like we just said, right? The truth hurts people living a lie.
Come on,
said that. Chris wants to know where you're preaching on Mother's Day.
Oh, Victory Rock. So
Victory
1700 Rock. Fairview Avenue, Galion, Ohio, 44833.
So make sure you go out there. Make sure you go out there.
Keep saying March, but it's literally May 12th. We ain't going back in time. Saying March.
I've been putting March on everything too. I don't know why.
I don't know what's going on.
What it was about March, but I need to start putting that on the ticker. I need to start putting the address for Victory Rock on the ticker down here when we do lives.
I'm probably gonna have to pay for a 30-month ass. So
Nah. You part of the Morning Brew. and Jesus even tells us to pray the same when no one is looking. I just had this conversation with my daughter.
Period. That's Philippians 4:8, Olivia. Whatever is true, whatever is noble, you do it when people in season, out of season, right? I'm going to remain consistent in my prayer life when it's convenient for me. Here it is. And when I have a true connection, right? I'm going to do it when it's not the best time or when it's not convenient. When all hell's breaking loose in my life, I'm still going to pray. When things are going the best, I'm still going to pray. Why? Because that's that Philippians 4:8. Whatever's true, I'm going to hold on to this, right? I'm not going to cash in a check that because things are bad now. No, I got money in the account to draw from.
That's that's true. Amy Hill said, "Good morning. My daughter Bailey keeps speaking about how about this church and how amazing it is."
Okay. I didn't know y'all was okay. So that humbles me.
So I'm curious how many people have started going to Victory Rock from watching this podcast. If you have watched this podcast and that's how you learned about Victory Rock and started going, let us know. I'm curious to know.
Yeah. I mean, me too.
Yeah. Olivia, she's doing a Bible study. She's 8 and they talked about it.
That's powerful. 8 years old, cracking open the word.
Yeah. Powerful. And to go along with that, manipulative people.
My God.
Now, I know we could go for hours on this
Oh man.
with the different ways that people manipulate people, whether it's in a relationship with somebody that you love, whether it's a pastor at a church, whatever it is. But somebody on one of the podcasts that I was watching, because YouTube is recommending a lot more podcasts related to God now, because I have found myself looking further and further into it.
Yes, sir.
So I heard somebody on there say that most people that don't believe in God are very manipulative, because their idea on the whole thing is that, well, if you can't show me that you exist, then I'm not going to believe in you.
Mm-hmm.
And he compared that to someone saying to a woman that, well, if you won't have sex with me, then you don't love me.
Teach us, sir.
So like we were saying with the convenience and the connection, they're creating terms for God to decide whether or not they think he's real. Just like they're creating terms for this woman, if you won't have sex with me, then you must not love me. You know what I mean?
It goes back to the last time we did the brew at Connect Coworks, and you put that picture up of that person with all those different identity markers on them, all those different things. And like you said, what makes it manipulative is the fact that they're trying to get you to believe in their truth, right?
Right.
Here's a problem, and you said it right on, okay? And I'm gonna learn this too. When I learn that you say something that's meaty, ain't no sense in adding to it, because you said some meat. Seriously, I'm serious, because you said it. And the only thing I'm gonna add to that is this, because you hit it right on. The moment you try to create an image of a God that you don't believe in, to me, that proves that there's some belief in him from you.
Yeah.
You're just trying to make it to where you don't want to believe that truth. Right? Scientists do it all the time. Right? Like, in order for you to have this ideology or this idea of God and then create a whole new idea to circumvent the idea that you know, that means you're fighting real hard to relinquish or suppress a truth that deep down you know is the truth.
Yeah.
But if you believe it, it goes back to what we said earlier. Now all of a sudden you're weird. You're different. So now the manipulation comes from people who are insecure or who knows the truth but don't want to believe the truth because it goes against status quo. It goes against familiarity. It goes against all that stuff we talked about, normality. It's not favorable. So now you manipulate people. And people say that about Christians. Well, you just want people to believe in your God. Now, again, there's certain, like you said, there's certain hirelings, because I won't call them pastors, they're hirelings and hypocrites that'll stand behind what I call the sacred desk as a pulpit, and they'll make you think that your wrong or your error or your sin defines you forever. And the God that I serve is, no, we don't like the sin, but we are always going to love the person.
Right.
But the manipulative person, the manipulative pastor, leader will make you think, well, you'll always be like that. So just stay connected.
And they always give you that ultimatum. Well, if you don't do this for me, then you're not this. You know what I mean? If you don't do this for me, then you're not this kind of person. You know what I mean? If you don't show me that you're real, then you must not exist. If you don't have sex with me, then you must not love me. And that's not what it is. You can't make someone else's terms. You can't make someone else decide how they love you. You can't make someone else decide how they want to present themselves to you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I would appreciate you more. Maya Angelou says this familiar quote, and we all know it. When somebody shows you who they are, believe them. I was talking to my big sister in the faith, Kiana, probably know her. She owns Diverse Moves Dance Studio in Marion. I was talking to her yesterday, and she says, Martin, when people show you who they are, believe them. She says, but when they show you and you believe them, you still love them, you still forgive them, you still treat them like they're a human, right? We're not going to ostracize people because they showed us who they are. I don't care if it doesn't agree with you or not. It doesn't give you a right to give them, like you said, an ultimatum. Well, since you showed me that side of you, you got a choice to make.
Right.
Oh, because the moment you give me a choice, it goes back to what we said. You're now telling me that this relationship is based on the convenience, not on connection. Period. And at the end of the day, I don't have time for that. You're going to make me feel bad. And shout out to the strong women. I mean, this isn't the feminist movement, but I'm just going to say this. Shout out to the strong women who left men that make them feel less than because they didn't, like, their identity is wrapped up in what you can or can't do for them.
Right.
And I'll say that too.
Yeah.
Shout out to the men who women makes it think like, if you don't give them this materialistic stuff, nah. When people show you who they are, you believe them.
Yeah.
And then you still love them. And sometimes loving them is setting that boundary. I love you enough to say this relationship isn't going to work because I'm trying to find true connection. You only want convenience, and now we're at an impasse. Period.
If you're searching for anything more than a true connection, then I don't think that's what you should be pursuing. You know, if that person in your life is searching for anything with you besides a real connection, then you probably shouldn't even have them in your life.
And biblically, the Bible says that. Matter of fact, the Bible says in Matthew, I don't know the particular verse and chapter and verse, but it says if they present them and they're not in agreement, you dust your feet from them. And in the old days, and in those times when you dust your feet, that means you left all the dirt and trash that was on your feet after you walked outside before you stepped into your home. And in the biblical and the spiritual sense, same thing. You can't step in. And I made a post, man, that went absolutely crazy. I didn't know it was going to get the response it did, but I said that because I said it's going to hurt some feelings. That if I throw away food in the trash can and then I go back to the trash,
that was a good one.
I go back to the trash to get that food because it tastes good to me at one point in time.
Yeah,
I'm no different than the trash I just threw away because now I'm trying to associate myself with the trash that's no longer good.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying
you turn into Oscar the Grouch on Sesame Street. Good Lord.
Teach us.
You living in the trash can. Always mad. You mad at everybody else because it's something you chose to do.
Yeah, nobody told you to go back to the trash. But that's what people do. Yeah. And they do it willingly.
And then wonder why they're miserable.
Talk to us. That's why I said Monday. Man, if you didn't watch it, tap in on it on Monday. Misery doesn't love company. Misery loves convenience.
Yeah.
Because convenience is what brings the company.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And that comfortability that you were talking about, man, you was hitting so many points on there. I was wanting to write them down, but at the same time, I was like, I don't even feel like getting up and going and grabbing a piece of paper right now because you was hitting so many points on there, like just with the convenience and the comfortability and being miserable, bro. It all fits in. Like you're never really happy until you break out of that comfortability and that convenience, and you implement discipline into your life and you start doing things that you might not want to do, but you know is best for you.
Period.
You know, so
Philippians 4, whatsoever is good. Philippians 4:8. Whatsoever is good, whatsoever is pure, meditate on these things. Right? Yeah. All those things, comfortability, convenience, those are seeds. Why do I call them seeds? Because once the soil plants in your mind, who waters it? Not the people you do.
You do.
By meditating on these things. Right. And that's where it's dangerous when you connect with people that always putting seeds in your mind. Well, you know, you probably shouldn't do that. Knowing deep down that you've been led to do that by Holy Spirit, or you've been around good counsel that says, no, that's a good move. Well, no, you shouldn't do that. Right. You got to put yourself around people that cares about you and cares about the connection they have with you.
Right.
And that goes back to what's on the screen right now. Manipulative people will only be in your life based on what you can do for them.
Yeah.
So don't
go ahead. No, and I've heard plenty of times people talk about love and just say real simply that love is someone wanting for you more than they want for themselves. You know what I mean?
That's where it becomes unconditional. There's no terms or there's no rules of engagement when it comes to true love.
Because how could they use you to get something for themselves if they want more for you than they even want for themselves? You know?
I ain't even going to extract. That was a word.
Because then when you go into it like that, I want more for you than I want for myself. Then I'm trying to make myself a better person to give you something better at the same time. So because I know what you deserve. I know what you deserve. So I want to give you the best version of me. And if I can't give you that, and I really love you like I say I do, then I need to break away from you and let you go find what you do deserve. You know what I mean?
And that's why relationships are suffering. Spiritual relationships, marriages,
situationships.
I talked about those Monday. right? A lot of y'all think you're in relationships and they're not relationships. They're situationships.
Situationships.
Because the moment a situation pop off, you're determining whether or not you want to be in that relationship anymore. That's not a relationship. Yeah. That's a situationship. It's contingent on the next situation.
Oh, yeah.
And unfortunately, that's a convenience level relationship. Everything has contingencies. There's rules of engagements. There's terms of agreement. You have this list of things. And again, let me say this too. I feel I need to say this. It's in the space. If you're seeking a relationship in the natural, you should have standards.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I think Trey would agree with me. You should have standards. You should never dumb your standards down. So that's not what I'm saying here. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have terms. Absolutely. Even Christ has terms. You got to forsake some stuff to fully, right? I'm not saying that. You still got to uphold that integrity of yourself. But what I mean by when I say the terms is when you go into that relationship after understanding what those terms are, and then that person has unknown terms that you don't know about, but those terms are only benefiting them and not the relationship as a whole. Right? A realistic term would be, while you're in a relationship with me, you shouldn't talk to anybody else.
Right.
But yet you're talking to a whole lot of other people, and then you get mad at me when I expose that. Or let me put it on a friendship level. We said that we would always be honest with each other, but yet when you smile in my face, you're stabbing me in the back when you're talking to Joe and Bob. So you got terms to your relationship with me that I don't know about. That's what I'm talking about. That's the manipulative level that we're talking about right now, that they're getting something out of the expense of you being connected to them.
Yeah.
And ultimately you get hurt by that.
Yeah, when stuff gets real, you're gonna see who's there.
You better
and I'm just saying, and I ain't trying to crack no jokes, but that person that comes around every time you get that tax money, and then after the tax money's spent, you don't see him no more. That's manipulation. That's convenience. You know what I mean? It's
brother, best friend, road dog, ride or die.
You know what I'm saying?
When I asked you for $4.
Yeah. Whatever that boyfriend that you're on and off with that loves you so much, as soon as that tax money comes in, you know what I mean? It's like, that's convenience that we're talking about. That's that manipulation.
All of a sudden, he'll boo, ride or die.
I love you now.
Backwards. What are we talking about?
So Amy said, apparently there is a good following from Marion going. Praise God. I have noticed a lot more people from Marion going. I see a few people there last time I was there.
Yeah.
So that's awesome that they're going all the way to, well, I mean, it's only 30 minutes away, but it's still, there's churches around here and they're choosing to make that 30-minute drive to go there. So they obviously found something they like.
Yes, sir.
Rebecca said, I heard about the revival series from a friend, and that's how I started going.
Yeah, Rebecca was tapping in regularly. Yeah, appreciate it.
So proud of you. Martin was placed in your life for a reason. I was just telling Taylor, I keep seeing glimpses of God through your posts, etc. Praying for you always. And we're praying for you. Glad that you get on here. We love everybody being on here, man. The more people we can get on here, the better. You know, because that's just what we're trying to do is just spread the word and have realistic conversation about it, you know?
Yeah, and encourage y'all in the process. I think, you know, each of the brews have their purpose. I just know Thursdays we're going to give you some word. We're going to be real when we do it, but we just want to encourage you, you know? And I think today encouragement is knowing who's around you, knowing your connection. That's the theme of even what we're going to talk about is everything is centered around connection. So,
yeah, and it's just crazy that we've known each other for so long. And if you would have told me back in high school that we would be doing this now, I'd have been like, probably not, you know, but hey, I wouldn't change a thing. So
same here, bro.
Love it. So to go off that, I had this a little further down the list, but I do want to talk about it now since we were talking about you and I's connection from back in the day, back in Silver Street days, you know what I mean?
All the way back to the yes, sir.
So the West Side. And you've said like you used to walk around with a Bible, full suit, and people used to call you Rev, but you didn't feel like you were really about it then, and now you're really about it. So I wanted to ask you, what was the most intimate moment with Christ that truly made you believe with all your heart?
Yeah, this is about to get so this is part of my testimony that I didn't share when I preached about my testimony. And then, you know, in time I probably will like a part 2. There's some things I couldn't say with me. But anyways, I was 12 years old and I was actually in JDC in Marion when they were, I think it's still operating now, but back then it was, people knew about it. And I remember I was in the cell R5. So they had the R side, which is the right side, the C side, which is right in the middle, and then the L side, which is the ladies. Hence the letters. But anyway, I was in R5. And at this particular sentence, I'd end up stealing, I think I'm just going to be real, some checks from my uncle. Went to his house to help him clean up his backyard. And uncle, I ain't gonna say his name, but he had money. Like he still do to this day. Like he just always. But anyways, he had this. I took his entire billfold, as they called it back then, the wallet, and just went back to my house with it, not realizing the billfold I took had his lights, everything he needed. So when he went to go look for it, he's like, "Where's my stuff at?" So long story short, he knew Martin. You know, I had a history of thieving, so he came right over to my mama's house and said, "Yeah, I need to talk to Martin immediately." And I'm in my room counting, and I think he had in his wallet at least like $800 in small bills. I'm like, man, I'm about to buy all the candy. And back then,
that's a lot of money for a 12-year-old.
Man, so back then it was nothing to go to middle school. They had a little candy shack, little concession. You remember Grant was? I mean, it was nothing to go to lunchtime, buy the extra milk. You know,
splurge it.
You already know, man. So he came in. So I need to talk to Martin, and he called first, and my mom said, "Well, you know, Uncle such and such's going his way over here. He said that he's missing his wallet. He needs your help look for it." Oh, okay. So what I did was, long story short, I ran outside, and in front of my house there was the sewer, or they call them manholes. Right. I threw the wallet in there because it was just too much evidence. I threw it in there. So he came and pulled up. He came in, and he says, "Martin, I know that you have my wallet because you was the only one at my house." And I was like, "No," I said, "I don't have it." He said, "Check everywhere." He says, "I'm gonna check." He says, "But you have it." Anyway, long story short, we start talking. I finally broke. I said, "Well, I threw it in the manhole." Well, he didn't care. And if I said this uncle, you probably wouldn't know him. He didn't care. He found a way to get his wallet out of that manhole. I mean, he put together stuff and got it out. And he said, "I just need my license." So the money I don't care about. I just need my license and my social security card, my medical card. I don't care about none of the other stuff. I just need my license. So he got it out. And in the process of trying to get it out, he ended up calling the police because it was in the manhole. So they had to call the fire department. So the police said, "Well, how did it get down here?" Anyways, story came out. So they asked my uncle, "Do you want to press charges?" And my uncle said, "Well, yeah, since you asking." And I'm sobbing, like, "No." And my mom's like, "Well, you know, such and so, do you really?" Said, "Yeah." He said, "He got to learn. You can't be stealing money." No. So they cuffed me and took me to JDC. He was 12 years old. Actually getting ready to turn 13 because my birthday was that next month.
Yeah.
And long story short, I was in the cell and I was just balling. And that's when they end up sentencing me because the stealing of my juvenile life was just horrendous. It was absolutely horrendous. It was bad. And the judge at the time, it was Judge Finnegan, he said, "I'm tired of seeing you. I'm tired of seeing you." So now he put me over to the Ohio Department of Youth Services, or DYS. And I was in juvenile prison. It was in that moment that I was in that cell that I realized something wasn't, and it wasn't one of those, "Well, God, if you get me out of this," because I got tired of praying that because I had prayed it so many times. And I ended up going to Cuyahoga County to their DYS there. And it was one of the craziest juvenile, as they're still operating. It was crazy. Had guards hitting you over the head with walkie-talkies because you're talking to them crazy. Bro, it was ridiculous. And me, like you said, going back to race, you know me, Trey, that's not my flavor. I was never really the one to be confrontational. I ain't gonna say the names that we rolled with to put on blast, but I depended on, I'm gonna say, because I depended on the Marvs, I depended on the Scoops, I depended on that. They knew I was with them. That was just by nature. Yeah, Rev, you with us, you always good. That was just always the language of it. They were older, but we rolled with them. So I never really gotten that. I was usually the one that came to pray for somebody or Mom, we got a question about it. Why did God do this? Well, so when I got there, it was just like this awakening. So to go back to what was that incident moment? I was sitting in the cell and they called what they call E-block in this dormitory. And the moment I walked in, people were saying, "Man, you don't belong here." I just kept all these like juveniles that was getting ready to do 2 more years here or 2 more months, and they're getting bound over to the adult prison. Like that's how bad these dudes were. They kept saying, "Man, you don't belong here, man. You don't belong here." And I said, "What did you do?" I said, well, I stole money. He said, you stole money? I said, I wasn't here for robbery. I stole 3 cars. Oh, man. But they kept saying that to me. You don't belong here. You don't belong here. And eventually I started believing that, like, I don't belong here. Not to make me better than them, because I was there. Yeah. Right. But they're hearing these dudes that didn't really care about life coming to me and say, hey, man, you know, always carrying the Bible. What's up with that? So I said, man, I love God. So I said, well, talk to us about that. But it's in that moment where I just felt like God pressed upon me and said, yeah, you don't belong here.
So they was kind of planting a good seed in you.
Man, a massive good seed. And I ended up doing 9 months there. It ended up, well, it was supposed to be a 9-month sentence. The first 2 months I was there, I wanted to act all tough, so I just didn't do anything I was told to do. Stupid. Even the guard said, why are you doing this? This is not your personality. My mom was getting mad. Like, what are you doing? So the 9 months turned into a year. They added 3 more months. And after that, I righted the ship. I actually got out a month early. But like you said, they were planting good seeds. But the moment that changed is when the people that were in the same situation as me seen something different in me. Does that make sense? Like they seen me, but they said, you don't belong here, man. I'm talking about these dudes. You can tell these dudes were about it. Yeah. They said, you don't belong here. And finally that stuck with me. I'm like, no, I don't belong here. Not that I'm better than anybody, but I know God has more for me. So when I got out, I ended up coming back to Harding. I actually started my sophomore year there. I remember when I came back, and I'm just going to say it because I'm grown now and 4 kids, married. I'm going to keep it real. People had all these speculations as to why I went away, but nobody ever stepped to me. And it's not that I looked any different. I mean, I was taller. I was still, a little slinky, but they knew, okay, Mark was locked up, but they had all these speculations, but nobody ever stepped to me. And back then, when I got to high school, I was still rolling with folks like you. Not saying that y'all, but not bodyguard, but I was rolling with you, Scoot, Marv, Shaq. Like, I was still rolling with the same people since literally elementary school. That did not change. So I flow back in. But then it was more of, okay, now we got to think about college. So athletics was a big thing and being a part of things. And then I made my name known in high school with telecom or announcing at basketball or football games. My voice became the key even in high school. And then music and, but I said it took me to go through that to realize, God, hearing those guys saying, you don't belong here, man. You don't, you awkward being here. One dude said some things so vulgar, but he said it with his heart. I can't really repeat it. But he said some expletives, and he kind of said, if I see you back here again, man, you're going to belong here because you ain't going to be. And it's such saying, when you get out, keep it straight. I got to do 2 more years here, and then I'm doing 15 years when I bind over. These dudes but they looking at me like, you doing 9 months? You don't belong here, not because of your sins, but because you don't carry yourself like that. So that was my moment when I was like, okay, God. And then was from that point, even when I got an adult, though, ended up getting a charge, forging checks, taking the check, and I said it on my testimony, forging checks, take a $200 check, forged it to $2,000, and end up cashing it, getting caught. It's crazy stuff, man. Yeah. I look back on that stuff. I look back where God got me from. And it's literally, that was the moment where I keep thinking, you don't belong here. That's not you. You're better than this. Not better than anybody else, but you're better than what you're trying to get yourself involved in. And I'm a proud father of 4, husband, and a very good job, doing podcasts with my good friend Trey.
And I think that's one of those miracles that people don't really take the time to look at. The fact that you came from that situation and all the stuff that you were doing, all them toxic habits, that nasty behavior, and then you have come to this person that we see now, which is awesome. Yeah. And I mean, that is a miracle in itself. People will always, because people, like we've talked about, people always want to focus on the bad stuff. They never look at the miracles that happen every day. How you cannot explain how this person went from rock bottom to this point in their life now. You know what I mean? So
it still surprised me. And that's why I say all the time, miracles are the greatest miracle that you ever see is the miracle you take advantage of. And I say that all the time. And say, what do you mean by that? You woke up this morning. That's a miracle. Why? Because somebody else didn't. A miracle is anything that you experience that somebody else didn't, or it's hard to explain. You can't explain why you woke up other than God's grace allowing you to do that. But I guarantee you, there's about a few thousand people that didn't wake up this morning.
Oh yeah.
There's somebody that woke up this morning that wasn't able to see. You did. So when those are miracles that we take them for granted because it's business as usual. That's why I admonish anybody, when you wake up, the moment you wake up, God, I thank
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. So next thing I wanted to talk about was faith over fear. And this is a big one that I struggle with a lot. Especially I went yesterday and I got a consultation to get my wisdom teeth taken out. I got to get all 4 wisdom teeth taken out.
My God.
So a big part. So this is a huge
praying for you, sir.
This is a huge part of my life right here, because they talking about they got to put me to sleep, and I don't like going to sleep with anesthesia and stuff because I've heard so many horror stories with it. But there was a verse that I read in the Bible, and it's probably one of my favorite verses that I've ever read in the Bible, because it really gives me comfort going throughout my day-to-day life. Because I mean, everybody is always worried about how they're going to pay bills, how is this going to work out in the future, you know what I mean? And 9 times out of 10, as much as you sit there and think about how bad things can work out, they never end up working out as bad as you imagine they will.
Usually never do.
So this is one of my favorite right here. Matthew 6:34. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own.
Period. Now, when you read the verses before that, it actually tells you, do I not feed the birds? Do I not clothe the grass? Do I not? And that verse is the pinnacle of faith. Don't worry about tomorrow. It doesn't mean don't plan. Don't be in anticipation of something greater. But the key word is do not worry. That means don't put your mind, right, in a state of constant angst because of you living in a state of what if. Take the King James says, take therefore no thought in tomorrow. That's how the King James says. Don't take any thought into it. Why? For tomorrow will worry about itself. There's enough that's going to happen tomorrow that that will probably make today look very minimal.
Yeah.
Not to put fear in you, but what's that? Take care of your business now. Face things now, right? Tap into those connections that you have now, right? And that's where that scripture is so powerful, right? That when you dub that scripture,
I love that one, because when I read that, I think about that one. Anytime I'm worried about something in the future, I'm like, man, I don't know how this is going to work out. I don't know how I'm going to be able to take care of this. I always think about that when I'm like, you know what? Hey, he said, don't worry about it.
Teach us.
That doesn't mean don't try to progress and be better and upgrade your life.
Right.
Doesn't mean that. It just means like everything's going to be okay. At the end of the day, it's going to turn out like it should, like it's supposed to.
Yep.
Everything's going to be all right. And Olivia is not trying to help me with my anxiety at all. She said she woke up during surgery when she was getting her teeth pulled. Why would you tell me that?
Olivia said, I'm going to give you the fact.
Lord.
You may wake up.
Yeah.
During the surgery, looking at this right in his eyeballs.
If I wake up during surgery now listen, if I wake up in the middle of a surgery and some guy has his hand in my mouth,
this dude,
I ain't gonna be the only one missing teeth, probably, man.
Look, Olivia's trying to put that faith in you.
Yeah, she's trying to see if I'm really living by the word or not.
You see, she capitalized all. Yeah. I had all my teeth.
All my teeth. Yeah.
And woke up during surgery.
Yeah. So I'm only getting 4, man. I hope I don't wake up during surgery. Because I'm kind of tiptoeing that line where I'm like, don't give me too much to where I never wake up, and at the same time, give me enough to where I don't wake up during the surgery. So let's hit that sweet spot.
We're gonna pray for you, man. You're gonna be all right. You're gonna be all right.
Psalms 11:2-7. He has no fear of bad news, for his heart is steadfast, trusting in the Lord.
Yeah. Listen, I appreciate Olivia. And here's the thing: he has no fear of bad news, for his heart is what? Steadfast. What is his heart steadfast doing? What's it consistently doing? Trusting in the Lord. When you're trusting in him, we ain't fearing no bad news,
right?
Because we're too busy thinking about the good things. Not trusting. Yeah, that's powerful.
All right, guys. So it is 10:55. I don't want to hold Martin up here. Did have a few more things to talk about, but we'll go ahead and save that. We'll see if you're able to do another episode sometime throughout the week, maybe, or something. I don't know.
Let me
Just
know.
let me know.
Yeah, I'm all always.
Okay. We'll probably try to do another episode this week if Martin is able to do it. But he does have to go to Connect Coworks to do another podcast. So we did have that stop at 10:55. So I'm gonna go ahead and let him get up out of here. But we appreciate you guys tuning in. And if you haven't yet, go over to the YouTube channel and subscribe to the Morning Brew Podcast.
Sir.
Make sure that you catch Martin's Monday devotions that he does on his Facebook page. And he is going and doing a podcast with Stephen Nolan, who is the other pastor at Victory Rock. So go check out Victory Rock. Also, there's so much stuff at the end of the podcast that I try to hit on just to make sure that I get it all out to people.
We appreciate you doing that. You don't understand.
Yeah. So make sure you go check out Stephen and Martin. You guys going at noon?
I won't get there probably about 12:31, probably 1, because I won't get there until 12:30. So
all right. So make sure you go check out Stephen and Martin at around 1 p.m. They'll be at Connect Coworks today, talking about a lot of the same stuff that we talk about on here. So if you like what we were talking about, go get another dose of it over there.
We'll continue the conversation.
Yeah, and we'll try to get you another episode this week because, like I said, with things that have been going on in our lives, like last week we were supposed to do an episode. We didn't even do an episode because I forgot all about having to take my dog to the vet to get a shot.
Wrapped up here anyway. I couldn't even do it with Steven last week. It was just crazy.
Yeah, so we're going to try to get you another one since we haven't been able to get you as much as we normally do. But appreciate you guys tuning in. Appreciate you guys interacting with us as always. Yes, and until next time, you guys have a great Thursday.
Peace.